Maisie Williams has given us a better indication of when we can expect the next season of Game of Thrones. She is talking about the 8th and final season of the Dark Fantasy series, and she was speaking with UK's Metro News. Williams says that the first episode will air in April 2019. Following a busy filming schedule that recently kicked off and will end in December. This means there will be a 4-month turnaround between the wrap of filming and the debut of the first episode. And Williams says it's taking so long because they don't want to rush and owe it to their audience to make it the best that it can be. This once again confirms that we won't be getting any new episodes this year. And after Game of Thrones is finished, HBO plans to continue the story with a spin-off show, although it's unclear how long we're going to have to wait until then. Now, PS4 gamers might have noticed a bit of trouble with the PlayStation Network over the weekend. Sony's online game service was plagued by outages and other technical problems over the last few days, with gamers in many parts of the world unable to log on and play. Now, as of Monday, it looks like it's up and running again, although Sony hasn't said why it went down in the first place. The outage was especially annoying given that the PS4 had 2 big multiplayer-centric games, Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball FighterZ. And Dragon Ball FighterZ, I always want to say that Z, which were both just released on Friday. So there's a lot of disappointed players out there. Thankfully, this outage wasn't nearly as bad as the one back in 2011 when the service was offline for almost an entire month after being attacked by hackers. Now, I played a lot of Monster Hunter World over the weekend, and I didn't notice any disruptions, so everything was going okay for me. And speaking of Sony, they might finally be giving the PlayStation VR a better controller. Finally, my prayers are answered. Sony has filed a patent for a new motion sensing controller designed to work with virtual reality headsets like the PlayStation VR. It looks pretty similar to the controllers from rivals HTC and Oculus and adds new finger tracking technology. Thankfully, this new controller would presumably replace the aging PlayStation Move controllers, which are right now the only motion-sensing controllers for the PlayStation VR. Those were first released way back in 2010 for the PS3 and are way out of date, so it's good that Sony is working on something better. There's no word yet on when these new controllers might arrive, but hopefully soon. Now, speaking of soon, you'll soon be able to relive Final Fantasy XV in a whole new way. Square Enix has announced that the mobile Pocket Edition of the game will launch on February 9th on iOS and Android devices. First announced last year, the Pocket Edition recreates the entire Final Fantasy XV story, but with a cutesy art style and simplified controls and gameplay mechanics. It will also be released episodically, with the narrative split into 10 chapters, but there's no word on how long it will take for all of them to arrive. Square Enix has hinted that this version of the game might also be released on the Nintendo Switch at some point down the line. I'm actually very curious about that game. We're not sure why, but Elon Musk is selling a flamethrower. The business magnate and inventor, who usually prides himself on creating things that help make the world a better place, has for some reason begun selling a mass-market flamethrower. The device, which Musk is selling through his digging and construction subsidiary, the Boring Company, that's the real name, is a handheld flamethrower capable of shooting beams of fire in front of you, just like in the movies. As far as we can tell, it costs $500 US. It's available for pre-order, and as far as we can tell, it isn't a joke. And although Elon Musk hasn't said exactly what practical purposes a flamethrower might serve, there are probably useful reasons to have one in the construction industry. Musk also points out that they'd be great in a zombie apocalypse, and Musk has begun selling fire extinguishers on the same site. Now, that guy is hilarious. I don't know if he's trolling us or what's going on, but it's pretty funny. He's obviously got lots of ideas on the brain. He's shooting off rockets. He's got the neural net technology where he wants to kind of create this symbiotic relationship between humans and machines. And obviously, he's got Tesla rocking and rolling and the solar battery stuff. But the flamethrower thing, that is totally new. I think it's probably just to put some attention on the Boring Company, which he wants to do. I don't know if you guys know this, but he wants to drill tunnels underground between megacities that could greatly benefit from rapid transit and avoid all of the sort of noise that would happen literally and figuratively with people living in these cities if all the trains and all that stuff were going on above ground. So he wants to bore deep into the ground and have these huge tunnels out there. And it is kind of a boring company in in more ways than one. But if you're talking about flamethrowers, suddenly everybody's ears perk up. I think the big news of the day is the Game of Thrones sort of leaking its release date through Maisie Williams. Thank you, Maisie Williams. I can't wait for the final season. I thought that the last season was just hell-bent on giving us all kinds of, fast information and lots of things kind of wrapping up, but obviously they're trying to kind of, set up lots and lots of sort of big final scenes for some of these characters that we've been watching and living with for so long. We've got a bit of a wait, but I think, all the people involved are going to definitely make it worth our while, and it's going to be an incredible final season. My fingers are crossed. It's interesting though, that show has lost so many characters and because of that, so many different subplots. It's really kind of simplifying as it narrows down. It's almost like a reality show. Who's going to end up on that Iron Throne at the end, which is going to be rad. Now, I think the other big news, for me at least, is that we're finally going to get some controllers for PlayStation VR. It looks like nothing's confirmed, nothing's announced, but yeah, those Move controllers. I tried them when I first got the PSVR, but they were so frustrating and so sloppy, and I needed, separate wires to charge them, and they kind of look cool because of all of the light up stuff, and it's great for our B-roll footage and stuff like that here, but yeah, it's time to get with, a little bit more contemporary and, it's sort of give us a little bit more control over these games. I think the Oculus Touch so far has been the control input device that I've enjoyed the most. I was very surprised how much I dug those. So hopefully, Sony is no slouch in making excellent game controllers, but hopefully they have something that compares with that. I want to ask, go to the chat here. Did anybody have any comments about any of the big stories? Who's psyched for Game of Thrones coming out next year? Have you been following all the way along, and are you, excited to see how they're going to wrap it all up for us? Let us know, and we are following along with the chat as best we can, but it helps us out if you put it in all caps. So if you've got a question or a comment, we will reply to you that way. And the other bit of news that came in today with the Final Fantasy, are you guys still hot on Final Fantasy 15? I feel like it had a good solid few months of love and adoration from the gaming world, but also I think mainstream sort of press sort of picking up on the budget for the game and how extravagant it looked, and it was an absolutely fun escape. But I don't know if people are going to be still fired up to jump on board and check out Final Fantasy. I mean, I guess they're obviously looking at the phone as a whole new category, a whole new way to engage an audience. I like the cutesy visuals, but it'll be interesting to see, how it stacks up and how it holds up. Funnily enough, I just watched the Conan O'Brien Final Fantasy 15 Clueless Gamer segment that he did with Elijah Wood, and it totally cracked me up because he was completely trashing the game because they were pushing the car. You know how slow that game is, but he was completely pushing the car, and he's like, is this really, I'm playing this right now? It was such a surreal experience for him. It was hilarious. I can't believe I'm so late to the party with that, but I was laughing my ass off. Adrian Leon says, you never got to do a live stream of playing Monster Hunter World like you said you would. I did play it for hours and hours and hours, but I felt like I still wanted to know the mechanics more because it's a complicated game. There's a lot of little issues. I didn't know what weapon I liked the best, so I was going out and trying a lot of expeditions and different missions with different weapons, sort of mixing and matching. And I wanted it to flow a little bit better when I got online. I think I'm going to be playing that tonight, so stay tuned. I've got some editing and stuff to do, but I'm trying to get back in because I want to have some thoughts for you guys on the game very soon. I don't think that's going to be one that I'm going to be finishing anytime soon. It is absolutely massive and it's so gorgeous, but I've already I've already got some thoughts that I want to share for sure. Monster Hunter World is it's amazing. Metal Gear Survive is more complicated, Emilio Lopez says. I haven't played that. I downloaded the demo, but they don't call them demos anymore. I downloaded the beta, and I tried to log on, but I think it was all over by that time. I am curious, though. Thorazine 666, I'm Irish, so that's one ring away from being atop of the albino ladder. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about there. Caps lock on, check from Leighton JT. How about the news that Leighton JT is also bringing up a great point. They've already sold 5 million copies of Monster Hunter World. It is a smash success. It's exactly the right move that Capcom should have done with this franchise. It deserved to be on a huge console platform. It deserved to have these 4K visuals. And it just kind of makes sense. It's a lot of the same stuff that I was talking about with John last week, John McCarty from 8.4, who's worked on a bunch of these Monster Hunter games. It was engineered and designed to be this social kind of engagement kind of platform, and it worked great in portable scenarios on 3DS and on PSP. But we're talking about massive beasts and hunting them down. So seeing it on your big screen makes all the difference in the world. It's gorgeous. I'm very curious to see. That's 5 million. Blade Blur is global. It's already surpassed that. So that's I think it's sell through too. I think that's all. That's in consumers' hands. But curious to see the staying power of that. And if you guys have thoughts on Monster Hunter World, share them with us here, either in the live chat or in the comments below in the archive. That will be totally cool. And we can talk a little bit about that in our Let's Play and chat at the end of the show. And we're going to be taking a look at Shadow of the Colossus, which again is absolutely gorgeous. Great weekend for massive Japanese developed experiences on the PlayStation 4. I was bouncing between Dragon Ball Fighters, a little Shadow of the Colossus, and a little Monster Hunter World. A lot of Monster Hunter World. And my daughter was right along there with me watching that game, her eyes wide open, going, holy crap. Well, I was saying holy crap, but she was super impressed by where we were going with all the monsters and chasing them all down, and she kept saying, over that way, Dad, over that way. And it's such a cool experience. Really, really good job. Emilio Lopez says, can you believe it is the MT framework engine? I thought it was the Deep Down engine. Right, yes. Yeah, that's right. It's I don't know what the MT framework engine is, but the Deep Down engine was that thing that they kind of showed us ages ago, right? And we still haven't seen that thing. But it looks great. They've done a really, really fantastic, a really, really nice job with all the visuals in there. Adrian Leon says, I can see that it is a very complicated game without a doubt. I'm still trying to get used to Monster Hunter World as well. That's the thing, right? Like, the games are always complicated, whether you play them on the 3DS or whatever, but I think this is going to be one of those games that's new for a lot of people that have been waiting for the console version. So it's going to be a very challenging experience, because you get your butt handed to you. You get out there on a hunt and you get trounced by these giant beasts that will, trample all over you. Yeah, it's an amazing game, and I had a blast this weekend, and I'm looking forward to jumping back on.